I for sure told you so that Fabio Quartararo, despite qualifying, would not be ready for Saturday and Sunday. Welcome back to I Told You So Tuesday, the Tuesday podcast where we talk about my pre-race predictions. And this week we're talking about Assen, the Assen TT, and what happened over the weekend, what I thought was going to happen, where I was right, and where I was dead freaking wrong. If you're not following already, please like, follow, share, mash all the buttons here on TikTok where we do the live recording of this podcast. Then go over to YouTube and subscribe where we have all of the podcasts from before and everything else, all the playlists. They're easy to find. Go over there and subscribe as well. And this will be up there Tuesday morning. Hence, I Told You So Tuesday. So let's talk about my pre-race predictions. This year, mostly I've been talking about how it has been going as it pertains to my fantasy team. This week, I kept the fantasy lineup exactly the same as last week. I had Marc Marquez and Alex Marquez as my two top riders. I had Marco Bezzecchi, Maverick Viñales as my second two riders. I had the Ducati as my constructor and Gresini Ducati as my team. So before I get into the fantasy of it all, I'm just going to talk about a couple of other predictions that I had at the beginning of the race weekend. I for sure predicted that Fabio Quartararo would be fast in qualifying. I thought he'd be on the front row. He outdid my prediction, went ahead and got his fourth pole position of the year. What I had also said was that I didn't think yet this Yamaha translates that Friday and Saturday qualifying speed into sprint and race results, and I was 100% right. I told you so. This Yamaha is not ready for Sunday running at the front just yet. They are out qualifying the bike right now. Fabio is overriding the bike and out qualifying himself. He does not have the machinery to fight on Saturdays and Sundays at the front. This is still a top 10 bike. This is not a top 3 bike. As much as a lot of people want to say now that Yamaha is suddenly the second best bike on the grid, it's just not true. They're maybe the second best in qualifying. He may be the best qualifier behind Marc Marquez. The bike is not ready for Saturday and Sunday. Why is that? Well, when you're running qualifying laps, there's no one in the middle of the corner when you're trying to turn in. So we're seeing what's happening as he goes to turn in the corner during the race. There's a bike there. He can't run that corner speed. He's getting taken advantage of on the straights. The Yamaha's just a little too slow on the straights, and it doesn't quite come out of the corner if it doesn't have that free release. So he's having to basically wait behind other riders and then can't hook up the bike enough to get past them before the next corner. It's just how it's worked for the last few years with Yamaha. So I told you so there. The other thing I was thinking in my head, I don't know if I ever said out loud, but I thought Pedro Acosta was going to have a pretty strong weekend. I did consider moving him to my fantasy team this week to replace Maverick Viñales. I just didn't quite pull the trigger on that, and I probably should have. So I kind of told you so on that one, but I couldn't really put my money where my mouth is there. So can't take very much credit. So let's get to the I told you so part, which is Marc Marquez, because no matter where he qualifying fourth, he was leading this race within 3 corners? I mean, he was at the front so freaking quick. So he's there. He's going to be there. He's going to continue to be the top of my fantasy team. I was a little worried when he crashed on Friday, and I, was he going to carry injury into this weekend? Didn't seem like it bothered him. Didn't put it on the front row. Didn't really seem to matter. Now, where I didn't tell you so, and I have to eat a little bit of humble pie, was Alex Marquez. On Saturday, with the sprint, it looked like I had a perfect I told you so. 3 of my 4 riders were on the podium. I had Marc, Alex, and Bez on my fantasy team, all on the podium on Saturday. Huge I told you so. Sunday, with Alex battling Pedro Acosta, not so much. The crash killed me than Fermin Aldeguer. The crash with him now just eliminates all of my points for Gresini. So it was not a good week in the fantasy league for those 2 guys. Now, as far as Maverick Viñales and Marco Bezzecchi, I can't complain about those dudes. I mean, Marco did the business. Gets on the podium in both races, really was the only one that had pace like Marc Marquez and the start to stay up there with him. Bez was pushing very, very hard. I was really hoping he could take the victory, even though it meant taking points of my fantasy team. I kind of wanted to see Bez win, because that also takes points away from my opponents. Listen, if you don't know the ins and outs of fantasy MotoGP, either do I. Just study up on it, and that somehow makes sense, what I just said. Even though Mark's on my team, I wanted him second, because he's also first on other people's teams, and whatever. But Bez did a great job. Saturday, Sunday, both podiums, and Maverick Vinales started coming to the front. Top 5, top 6 in both races Saturday and Sunday. Maverick doing the business on the KTM. I probably would have been a little bit better points-wise if I would have went with Pedro Acosta over Maverick, but I can't be all that upset. Top 5, 6 is where I expect Maverick to finish as my 3rd or 4th rider. So I told you so. I put him there. He did a good job. I told you so. Now the big I told you so that, well, I've been putting a lot of faith in Gresini Racing as my team this year. I could have probably moved things around and just gone a lockout with factory Ducati. You know, Pecco is always going to be at the front. We're saying that Pecco is struggling, and by struggling, we're saying 3rd, 4th every week. Like, he's not finishing 8th, 9th, 10th. He has had some DNFs, but he's finishing toward the front. So I really did try to work out a team where I could have all of my cake and all of my Ducati cake, where I could have Marco. I'm sorry, not Marco. I could have Mark, I could have Alex, I could have Pecco, and I could have factory Ducati. There's just not that much money in my budget at this time, so I had to stay with the team that I had. And I really, the guy I rode this week for my points was Marco Bezzecchi, and I completely told you so. He was all over the, he's strong here. The Aprilia is strong here. The other thing I will say going forward, I don't expect Marco to stay on my team for very many more weeks. I don't think this Aprilia is going to be that good at the coming tracks where we're at Sachsenring or we're in Austria. And these next tracks, I don't really trust nowhere to go either because I don't trust the Yamaha on Saturday and Sunday to score points for me. They're going to look great on Sunday in qualifying, look pretty good in practice, and just not really going to be there on Saturday and Sunday. So I don't really know where I'm going yet in the coming weeks. But for now, Mark, Bez, Vinales, I told you so. You should have had him on your fantasy team. Alex, we're going to chalk that up to a fluke. I hope he is not injured long term. I hope we don't lose Alex Marquez out of this championship for several races. I hope he's healthy. I hope the surgery was successful and he gets back on track as soon as possible. And Aldeguer, you got to stay on the bike, buddy. I've been riding this Gresini team the whole time and killing me if you're not on the bike. You got to stay on the bike because I can't have 0 points coming from my team on Sunday. Now, with all that being said, I still am 4th place in my league, I think, out of 32 players. It's in my little private league that was started by Moto Lou here on TikTok, so you can go follow her as well, give her a shout out. And I'm still the top in that team the top player from the U.S. Not by much, by only a couple points. So I can't have another weekend like this last weekend if I'm hoping to stay there. Now, looking forward, I don't see Mark going anywhere in my fantasy lineup. He's red hot. Even if there's an occasional DNF, it's fine. He's going to score you a lot of points. And the second you pull him off your roster is the time that he's going to win and take all 37 points and just make you wish that you didn't play. Alex, I don't know what to do. Now, do I let Alex go because of an injury? Do I not expect much out of him, even if he does come back in the next race? There may be an opportunity now for someone like Digia, Morbidelli, or Pecco even to be slotted into that number 2 slot on my fantasy team. But that's all we got from now. Assen was a lot of fun. If you haven't watched the race, you should go back and race it. I also, one more thing I said. I said that in the Moto 2 race, we were going to see Diogo Moreira fight tooth and nail to stuff Aaron Canette's words back down his throat. He for sure did that. Huge win for Diogo. Had to do a little shout out to the Moto 2 riders because the Moto 2 has been kind of my favorite category this year. Moto 3 is fun, but I just don't have a rider I'm really cheering for. I'm just watching as a spectator. But in Moto 2, really enjoying Moto 2. It's good to see Joe Roberts in the top 5 and hoping for more from him as well. This was a very rambly episode of I Told You So Tuesday because Assen kind of kerfuffled me a little bit. There was a lot of things I knew were going to happen and happened exactly like I thought with Fabio Quartararo, but when it came to Alex's crash and Pedro Acosta and the whole thing, Firmin Aldeguer crashing, and it was a pretty wild weekend. And so, yeah, it's tough to say I told you so very loud and proud this week. It kind of got me out. So, you know, you win some weeks, you lose some weeks. Anyway, thank you so much for joining. If you're not following, liking, sharing, you should be mashing all those buttons to get all the MotoGP goodness you can handle all season long. Thank you so much.